Welcome back to Native Speaker. Here we're going to look at talking about solutions, good approach and a bad approach. Sometimes when we're giving our opinion on an issue or person, we may want to discuss good and bad ways of doing something. In this next table, we're going to see how to give this critical analysis. The first thing we're going to need is the word approach, and approach always works with the preposition to. You may want to say what kind of approach: effective, positive, hands-on, professional. And then, because approach is a countable noun, you'll need an article. Whether it's a or an will be determined by the words next to the article. So this word begins with a vowel, so we're using an. This word begins with a consonant, so we use a. This is true for most vowels and articles, though there are some exceptions that we'll look at another time. Every car needs a driver, so approach always partners with the verb have. So you'll have some variation of the verb have, had in the past, need to have, doesn't have, has had, has, didn't really have. That's what'll go here. You'll find that the continuous tenses don't work well here because approach tends to be a state rather than an action. Sometimes you'll want to say how effective or positive something is, so you'll say extremely effective, really positive, very hands-on. And now we have this lovely adverb, adjective, noun, approaches the noun combination that is very natural with native speakers and in native speaker speech. Here, if you want to say an extremely effective approach to, and you want to mention an action, then you can put in a verb ing. And this now becomes the core, central part of your sentence. Have an extremely effective approach to motivating. Had a really positive approach to dealing with. Need to have a very hands-on approach to handling. All you have to do now is add a subject at the beginning and an object. And now we can say the fitness coaches have an extremely effective approach to motivating the players. Maybe you want to say something more to qualify this or to develop the sentence. So you might add a complement, which adds a little bit more information to motivating the players and building their confidence. You'll notice here that if a verb comes immediately after and, it also will be the verb ing. I say to my students sometimes that this is a bit like a Bluetooth connection. If there are more words here, then this rule may not apply. But when it's pretty close to the verb that comes after approach to, then it will follow the same formula. But the further the distance, the greater the number of words between this verb and this verb, the more likely that it may have to change. Here, my teacher had a really positive approach to dealing with issues. Well, what kind of issues? Emotional issues, personal issues, financial issues? Oh, look, issues among the students. HR managers need to have a very hands-on approach to handling HR challenges, and here there was no further information given. I left this one empty just so you can see that it can be empty, not that it should be empty. Okay? So let's have a look at some sentences. I'm going to get our green ball to bounce across the screen, and you can practice trying to keep up with this ball. Now, this shouldn't mean that you speak in an unnaturally fast way. It's just a reminder to keep up the delivery of the sentence. Okay? So for example, the fitness coaches have an extremely effective approach to motivating the players and building their confidence. So there you see that I kind of kept up with the ball. I didn't go too fast so that I'm rushing my sentence. I kept it to a speed that's comfortable for myself. And later you can turn down the volume and speak this sentence on your own, or you can leave the volume up and speak it with my voice if you want. Pay attention to the pronunciation and make sure that you're not getting any pronunciation wrong. Next one. My teacher had a really positive approach to dealing with issues among the students. HR managers need to have a very hands-on approach to handling HR challenges. The trainer doesn't have a very professional approach to improving his team's focus on winning their matches. The government has had a rather lacklustre approach to handling the issue of business rejuvenation. The EU had a somewhat negative approach to negotiating with Britain in the Brexit talks. She has a rather curious approach to tackling the issue of absenteeism in her office. The Russians had quite an ingenious approach to living in extreme winter conditions years ago. That supervisor didn't really have a very practical approach to addressing issues on the production line. So this kind of sentence can be used in essays, assignments, projects, tests and exams, thesis, etc. in college life. It can be used in secondary school life, of course, because you have to produce essays there as well, often to a high standard. It's fantastic for Cambridge-style essay questions and even speaking presentations and exams. It's great for emails and it's great for discussions and negotiation. So these are things you should remember, that this has a very universal usage. And it handles a lot of issues for you in IELTS exams, in the sense that it shows grammatical range and accuracy by showing the examiner that you know approach, partners with to plus verb ing. It gives you an opportunity to show lexical resource by showing that you can build adverb, adjective, and noun combinations, like extremely positive approach to, rather professional approach to, somewhat ingenious approach to, and you can mix and match these as well. It also helps you to score points on the task achievement category. You'll be tested on that, for example, in IELTS, where they're asking you to develop your points well and speak about the topic that they've given you to speak on. So very often, one thing you're guaranteed to be asked to do in an IELTS speaking exam or essay question is to give your opinion. Part of giving your opinion is to criticize and praise, give credit or criticize where it's required, and sometimes part of that will be to say that somebody or an organization do things in a good way or a bad way. And here you can see how to do it. Some curiosities here. You'll notice that a and an go in this column except here, and that's because of this word quite. Quite doesn't take an article before it, it takes an article after it. Okay? All of its brothers, rather, somewhat, very, really, extremely, they don't. They take the article before it, but this takes the article after it. Also, the pronunciation of quite, the T changes to D. Quide, quide, like wide, like a wide road. And then say quide, quidan, quidan, and then make it all one sound. And then make the next word all one sound. Quite an ingenious, quite an ingenious, quite an ingenious. If it was this word, it would be quite a curious, quite a negative, quite a lackluster. Okay, but here it would be quite an ingenious, quite an effective, and practice that as well. Quite an ingenious, quite an effective. Okay, quite a negative, quite a lackluster, quite a professional, quite a hands-on, quite a positive. Some students ask me to clarify what hands-on means, and hands-on means that you're involved. Okay, so if you have a hands-on approach to doing your job, that means that you don't monitor it from a camera and just email in. You're involved in it. You're there watching, taking part, and doing the work. The other word is lackluster. Well, if you cut the word up, you can see that lack means that it doesn't have something, and luster is connected to the word lust, which is also connected to the word hunger and energy. So if you say lackluster, means it didn't have any energy or enthusiasm. That's what lackluster means. So here they're saying the government has had a rather lackluster approach. That means unenthusiastic, unenergetic. And this word here is pronounced ingenious, not ingenious. In case some of our European cousins might have a similar word, it's ingenious, like genie in the bottle. Rather and somewhat, rather, quite, and somewhat are the formal cousins in this group, and then other words can be very informal, like kind of, sort of, pretty, fairly. They can be used in here also. Don't forget that the verb form comes after to is verb ing. Another surprise for some students who have been told since they were kids that after to you must have verb ing, but not necessarily. Approach to, or to have an extremely effective approach to, uses a verb ing. And that's it really. You'll see here that on focus on winning, after focus on, you must use verb ing. So some of the other grammar rules that we apply generally may be required in here. Oh, and rejuvenation. Well, always means to do again, and juvenile is somebody who's under 16. So rejuvenation might be to make something young again, to freshen something up, to give it new life. Okay. Absent means not here. Absentee, a person who is not here. And absenteeism, the problem of not having staff or students at school or work. So there you see a lot of the words that can be used. You can see that some of our fixing verbs often make an appearance in here, not exclusively, but they can, because you're talking about the correct approach to doing something. And sometimes you want to fix a problem that you have identified as part of giving your opinion and talking about solutions. So that's all from me. The very best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.